The Steam Next Fest just keeps happening no matter how much you try to stop it. This October iteration sets us up for the holiday season triumvirate of Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas and their corresponding Steam sales, with an introduction to a bunch of great demos for games that may or may not actually be available when those events happen. Let's start with the theme of all Next Fests, where we spend 7 days trying to play thousands of demos and depriving ourselves of basic necessities until we ask, is this game trying to kill me? Here, we'll wake up with the mega spook of a skeleton in our bed to the mystery of a strange cabin with a PC sitting in the middle of the room. Upon this odd device, we'll navigate our avatar through a collection of seemingly basic puzzles until the realization that things happening on the screen are controlling the reality of our mysterious shack. Soon, you'll be leaping from your CRT fantasy to various places around the room, manipulating the game within the game with your real-world game actions. Or you may just need to peek around the environment to figure out the best way out or through this Inscription-like adventure of questioning reality. But if you want your reality to be a little more realistic, you should set out on your teenage fantasy road trip to visit your buddy's house with Keep Driving. In this modern take on the classic Oregon Trail gameplay, you'll prep for your journey and take to the driver's seat of your high-quality hand-me-down shitbox loaded to the brim with everything you need to make the cross-distance journey to your friend's house with your favorite video game. On this journey, you'll encounter all sorts of exciting challenges like being stuck behind a slow-moving tractor, broken down cars, and the devastating assault of rain. Each one will force you to use your skills and whatever tools are in your glove box to surmount those hurdles and prevent them from draining your energy and leaving you stricken with ailments like a headache and being cold. But as you make your way through each leg of your journey, you can restock supplies and find ways to earn the cash you need to make it to that teenage fantasy of playing video games and drinking beer. However, not all teenagers share that same dream, and in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate, you'll be living the nightmare of perpetual roguelike death and rebirth in your attempt to rescue your kidnapped sensei. In an homage to Hades, you'll be playing an alternate reality Hades with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle characters in all the roles. You can pick from any of the 4 eponymous heroes with their respective weapons and distinctive dispositions to bash, beat, and stab your way through various levels and boss fights, building up powers with each completed area. You can even use currency you obtain to upgrade your powers to make sure your ass-kicking to ass-kicked ratio is improved with each run. But if you want your roguelike hack-and-slash ass-kicking to be slightly less like Hades, you'll want to check out Windblown. In the long-awaited follow-up to Dead Cells, you'll dive into a game almost nothing like Dead Cells as you take on the role of an anthropomorphic animal creature fighting their way into a beautifully surreal world of floating platforms and strange mechanical monsters trying to kill you. You'll have the power to zip around with an instant teleport that serves as both a dodge move that will constantly keep you from getting obliterated and a means to traverse the environment where no more than 10 square feet of the ground are connected. And while chopping up high-speed enemies with high-speed sword slashes, beam projectiles, and explosive magic, you'll unlock more weapons and skills that will aid you on your run, while once again gaining currency to unlock permanent upgrades that will make you even better at whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. Of course, one of the most enjoyable ways to gain currency is gambling, and you can finally enjoy another entry into the fake gambling world of real gambling games with Ballionaire. In this confusing dimension with multi-eyed monster creatures and whatever the hell these things are, you'll be placed in front of a giant pachinko machine with the task of making a certain amount of money with a limited collection of big bouncing balls. As your balls drop, they'll run into various items that each provide money, bounce your balls around, launch them back up into the fray, teleport them to a different point, or a wide variety of other ball manipulation fun until they eventually fall out of the bottom and disappear. Then you'll get a new special ball blasting peg to strategically place on the board to enhance your payouts and keep your balls out of the gutter just a little bit longer. Patrolling the gutters of the streets might be your new favorite thing to do though if you check out the isometric police sandbox, the Precinct. Here, after sitting through an awkward conversation with this line of fully voiced police officer cartoons, you'll take your rookie cop out into the city to enjoy the raw, visceral fun of giving people parking tickets and beating graffiti artists with your baton. But it's not just Grand Theft Auto Cop Edition. You'll have to follow protocol and only use force if it's justified, even when it takes place in an era where you wouldn't even have to turn off your body cam to get away with it. But you'll almost immediately get your justification for violence as you pull up to a bank robbery to gun down some criminals and then get in a classic car chase to round out the whole cop experience. You'll even get to fly a police helicopter on your second day and absolutely crush those bad guys with your spotlight expertise. But if you're looking for a flying experience that has way more action and a little less protocol to follow, you'll want to take off with Rogue Flight. This classic rail shooter sends you blazing down a tunnel of mayhem, blasting apart swarms of generic sci-fi sentient AI robot creatures to attempt to save the remnants of humanity as a giant-eyed anime chick. You'll blast them with machine guns, lock-on missiles, and a seemingly infinite recharging slow-motion drift maneuver to send those robots back to whatever robot hell they crawled from. And maybe you can figure out how to beat this boss fight where for some reason you're following way too close to this ship and have to shoot out the engines that shred your shields faster than anything else in the game. Rail shooters are always a great time, but they're even more fun when you can jam out to some great music while you're swirling around the tunnel you're trapped within, which is exactly what you'll be doing in Arrow 2. Here you'll trade off between tracing rhythm and melodies on cylindrical walls while dodging obstacles and blasting enemies that leisurely stroll in front of you with your missiles and machine guns until you can get back to the dancing part. Sometimes you'll have to do both at the same time, requiring more coordination and brainpower than I have ever collectively had in my entire life. And as you dance fight your way through the music, you might even get to fight a gigantic crab boss that conveniently lined itself up with your rail shooting path. But if you're looking for a rail shooter without all of the shooting parts and a full-on dedication to making those sweet jams with every level, then you'll want to check out the rhythm railer Hyperbeat. In this extremely polygonal wireframe world of robot voices and endless electronic and trance music, you'll engage with this tree to make your way into song-based tunnels of geometric shapes to begin chasing your high score. You'll have to slam your flying poleaxe-wielding character into these musical hexagons to generate the sounds of the song while engaging with your left and right attacks to slice up these directional blocks like a low-res Beat Saber. The difficulty level options take these tubular tracks from challenging adventures to a luge-like onslaught of triggers filling the screen that seem like they require superhuman reflexes to hit. But if you've got those reflexes, you can get a more respectable score on this star stopwatch thing and feel the pride and accomplishment you deserve. However, if you don't have any of those cat-like reflexes and would like to travel on some more leisurely rails, you might want to buy your ticket to Battle Train. After a strangely extensive world-building introduction, you'll find yourself in a turn-based strategical world of train-launching combat that will once again take you down those familiar roguelike branching paths of occasional success and probable failure. Your task is simple: take your ever-evolving deck of cards filled with train tracks, buffs, bombs, and a whole assortment of construction and destruction tools and eliminate your opponent's stations. Your primary goal will be connecting a line of train tracks from your train launcher to their station and heaving an explosive train at them, doing as much damage as possible. Meanwhile, they're trying to do the same to your stations while simultaneously fucking up your track-laying efforts. But if your desires for turn-based strategic explosions need a little more familiarity in the design, then you can always dive into Warside. This game that looks exactly like Advance Wars actually plays almost exactly like Advance Wars. Just like Advance Wars, you'll build cute little bubbly soldiers and tanks with 10 health representing 10 unit power and or 10 units in the group. You'll send those units to face off against bubbly enemy units in a turn-based battle that launches bullets, bombs, and rockets across a split screen for the cutest mass casualty event you'll ever see. And all you have to do is wipe the entire enemy force off the map to win. Committing extreme levels of violence is much more socially acceptable though when the recipient is hordes of zombies, demons, and monsters, which is the target of your rage in Bloodshed. In this first-person shooter Vampire Survivors design, you'll choose between a weird-looking guy with a pistol and a cool-looking guy with a shotgun to spend 20 minutes painting a village with the blood of endlessly spawning creatures. In your sadistic adventure, you'll be looping around the streets and alleyways, backtracking and dodging enemies the entire way to end this unending invasion while scooping up all of the XP gems you blast out of their bodies. Leveling up will give you the ability to bolster your powers and damage and even get new weapons that you'll never have the motivation to switch to. Weapons like a second shotgun or a melee weapon that lets you try to win battles against swarms of deadly melee enemies by standing as close to them as possible. You can even switch to automatic weapon firing to ensure you miss at least twice as many shots with guns that just fire whenever they feel like they're kinda close to an enemy. You might like that feeling of intimate demon monster fighting though, and in a more two-dimensional isometric world, you won't have to spend nearly as much time locked in on the pixelated asses of your enemies, which is why I enjoyed Jotunnslayer Hordes of Hel. In another entry to the bullet heavens dominating the indie game world, this one raises the bar by not looking like it was made 30 years ago. Instead, this looks and feels like a modern-day hack-and-slash ARPG, and you can even set it up to let you swing your abilities manually if you want to feel more involved in the process. But when you're taking on a screen full of boogans and skelly boys or dodging 50 red circles of death, it might be best to focus on your agility. Of course, this time, rather than attaching more auto-attacking weapons to your body, you'll receive magical powers from Norse gods like Thor and Loki to strike down your enemies with as much or more prowess as your own spinning axes and deadly arrows. Striking down enemies with a variety of weapons is apparently the only thing you'll be doing as this generic swashbuckling pirate in Captain Blood. In a game that looks like it's from the early 2000s because it was actually made in the early 2000s and never released, this upcoming release will give you that classic hack-and-slash God of War feel without quite as much spectacle or polish, but with just enough ridiculous cloned enemies and awkward camera angles to give you a nostalgia trip you never asked for. You'll even get to take on old-school QuickTime events that test your reflexes just as much as your patience, but also make boss fights feel like you might actually be doing something cool. But if you want to feel like you're doing something cool with every single second of your gameplay experience, you should strap yourself in for some screen-shaking mayhem with Antonblast. This Wario Land-inspired title will put you in the role of some incredibly angry person who uses their rage to smash through walls, doors, blocks, and anything that would dare put itself between him and his aimless goal. You'll use those destructive powers to plow through enemies and clear rooms, collecting what I assume are casino chips as a reward. The only thing that will slow you down is navigating the puzzles that take you into dumpster diving portals and leaping between the background and foreground to get around the handful of barriers you can't slam yourself through for explosive fun. It even has a dedicated button just for screaming. Yet I think the only thing that would make me scream more is racing 100 miles an hour through a narrow canyon with a militarized police force trying to murder me, and that's exactly what you'll be doing in Redline Crooks. But instead of succumbing to the violence of malicious police cruisers, vans covered in deadly spikes, or trucks wielding giant cannons, you can use your own vehicle's slams and special powers to send their burning chassis into the canyon walls. And even those canyon walls are no match for your boost ability that lets you carve a path through them like a regular maniac. Also, you can earn money and a letter grade for how excellent your destructive skills are and spend that cash on additional destructive skills to get the report card you deserve. Yet what you may feel like you deserve is violent revenge, and in Vindefiant you'll take on the role of some kind of symbiote-infected guy who's rampaging through a very impractical office complex, exercising his revenge rights to the fullest extent. Not only will you be able to climb ceilings and walls with ease, you'll also have a convenient tentacle arm that can pull open doors, flip switches, and sling whatever you want at high speed at whatever other thing you want destroyed, even people. The only thing that can stop you are armed security guards, assuming you don't give them the old ceiling-to-floor bounce until their limbs fall off before they can fire a shot. Or the much more deadly threat of slightly rough-looking walls that will instantly and temporarily turn you into a dead blob creature if you touch them. But if you want to get killed in a more traditional American way, then you might prefer to check out the return of the long-forgotten military action franchise, Delta Force. In this standard first-person shooter experience, you'll have two familiar options for your fantastically generic adventure of shooting at other guys with assault rifles and machine guns. The first will put you with two other jabronis in yet another extraction shooter where you can collect weapons and use whichever abilities your slightly caricatured hero selection has to collect some MacGuffins and get them out of the battle area you've wandered into. You'll then be able to haul everything you've gained back to a base and use them in future missions. But if you want to have some actual fun, you can go into the second mode that is, as far as I can tell, just rush mode from the Battlefield franchise. And just like Battlefield, you'll have all sorts of tools, gadgets, and vehicles to charge into or defend control points in an all-out battle with 64 players. You can even expertly fly this helicopter and rain down terror, perhaps even on enemies at times. Yet one thing you can't do is enjoy all of the Steam Next Fest demos in the 7 short days you're given to do so. And I don't think you could do it even if you were given 7 weeks, given how many are available and how much time you can waste just fucking around in helicopters or walking in circles shooting at monsters. But if you want to see more game previews and possibly reviews of these very games when they release, like this video and check out more Abbreviated Reviews.